What is up, all my dorks, nerds, geeks, and gamers? It's your host Ghost here, and you're watching a brand new episode of Dorks in Movie Minute. Today we're going to be talking about Rick and Morty, episodes 3 and 4. Episode 3 entitled Rick Convenient Mort. A Rick Convenient Mort. Rick with the word instead of inconvenient truth. That's basically what it's playing off of, environmental safety and stuff like that. Which is actually kind of fitting because this episode starts off with a meeting between Planetana, which is Rick and Morty's version of Captain Planet, who's all about saving the environment no matter what means it takes to get there. She is also summoned by 5 children who are now adults with these rings. Wind, fire, earth, and there's another one. But the elements, the main elements you have of Captain Planet that make him are the same things that make Planetina. And it starts off, Rick and Morty are going to Boob World or something like that, and spring break with Rick and Morty is what it is. And then Morty decides he meets Planetana, who is saving the environment from this natural disaster. He falls in love. He ends up ditching Rick and throwing his shirt at Rick, and he's like, "I'm done with this. I'm gonna hang out with Planetana." And they fly off and start having their own relationship stuff going on from here on with this point in the episode. Then we cut to Rick and Summer, who are back at the dinner table. Who Morty has this fight with his parents, and he's going through these changes as a teenager, and he's kind of going through the whole love phase and all that stuff with meeting Planetana, having these fights with his parents, with Jerry and the mother, Beth. So then we have this side storyline of Rick and Summer, who are going on this spring break trip around 2 different planets before they explode or before they end. And at the same time, Rick is having the same problem Morty is, and it's kind of reflective on the 2 characters, where Morty's with Summer, and they promise they're not going to fall in love or have someone who's attached to them during this trip. It's all about having fun before the planet explodes and then moving on to the next planet and the next planet and the next planet. But Rick ends up falling for this girl. She says, "Hello." Very hilarious scene. She has these boobs on her elbows here. That's why Rick falls in love with her. And that's why he doesn't want to leave her. It's a very hilarious excuse, and it is very funny the way they blurted out the things on the elbow. Very hilarious. Great scene. It works perfectly with Rick, and such a petty reason why he would fall in love with such an alien creature, but it works perfectly for his character. It's a great reflection on the Morty arc with him falling in love with Planetana and trying to have something in his life that's worth holding on to. The same way Rick's doing the same thing with Summer. So then we cut back to Morty, who is with Planetana again, and but she ends up having to go away because she's working for her kids, who are now adults, who kind of pimp her out and have her do these promotions and stuff like that for money so they can make good money. But then Morty decides he's going to take out the kids, get the rings himself, so that way she can't be locked up anymore. He does. He ends up getting tied up by one of the kids, the one with the fire ring, the adult. He ends up turning on him, breaking out of his chains or his ropes and stuff. He ends up killing the kid with the ring, taking that ring, going in and killing the other ones with their powers, saying "win, win, win," sticking it in one's mouth and having the head explode. A bunch of visceral scenes, very well. It works really well with the animation style in Rick and Morty fashion. It's something that Morty would do. He would go over the top for something like that for selfish reasons. And that's just what Morty does. He ends up getting Planetana. He has all the rings, so now he can summon her and whatever. I assume he gives her the rings because he doesn't summon her anymore after that. She kind of has free will at that point on. So yeah, she kind of comes back and they have another they kind of get into the relationship, exploring things, going and doing different planetary things. But then Planetana loses it and goes to a coal mine and basically kills all the coal miners in front of Morty. And Morty's like, "You know what, I can't do this anymore. You want to help the world, but you're willing to kill people for it." And that's kind of the double standard that everyone has to face when you want to make a change. You kind of have to step on some toes to make a change, no matter what change you want to go in. So that's kind of what they're pointing out in this episode. And Morty actually sticks to his guns, and he ends the relationship there. And yeah, it's kind of ends sad. It's one of those sadder episodes that has that melancholy kind of feel ending. And this one is it. That's it between him and Planetana. Rick ends up giving up his love, and then they're both kind of depressed at the end of the episode, and that's where it ends. And that's kind of sometimes where Rick and Morty has episodes end. Every season there's that one episode, that one sad episode, And this was that episode, and it worked perfectly well, and it was another great addition to the sad episode collection, I like to call it. So I give this one an 8 out of 10, a very solid episode, great story arcs, story moments, and then also moments where our characters can grow into what they've been trying to get to through the storyline. We finally get to see a little bit of that come through with Morty's defiance and with Rick falling for someone for the wrong reasons and stuff like that. So that was episode 3. Moving on to episode 4. This is Rick Dependence Day. This episode was absolutely hilarious, but I think it was the one that went off the rails the most, and probably the worst episode of the season in my opinion. Just writing wise, it kind of felt like a hodgepodge, more like a family episode than it felt like a Rick and Morty episode. But still pretty solid on the jokes. This one starts off with Morty going to his mom Beth's horse hospital, where he finds a horse milking machine. And we all know what happens there. He ends up using it for devious reasons and filling a whole thing of horse sperm, which is actually all Morty sperm, which then gets radioactive and mutates into these sperm monsters. So this is all Morty sperm, who are sperm monsters, and he's got to keep this hidden from Rick while still trying to clean up the mess that he's made in the process. I got a bunch of good jokes about Morty hiding stuff, Rick calling him disgusting. You get the return of the president in this episode. He's back again, Keith David. He comes back a few times in this season, so it's good to see him here as a starter, as a warm-up for the president's return for bigger storylines. We also have a storyline of how do you stop sperm monsters? Well, you're going to need a giant egg. So they use Summer's egg to attract Morty's sperm monsters, which they end up killing them all off because they end up getting into Vegas and having this Vegas. It's crazy to get a bunch of Vegas people to fight these sperm monsters on top of these horse creatures that they get tied into, where Rick has a relationship with one who is pregnant, and how the horse people tie into this. That's when they kind of jumped the shark for me, and that's when I kind of lost interest in the episode, because it kind of felt more like a season 4 episode where they were just kind of throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what stuck. It didn't feel as solid writing-wise. It felt like more of a hodgepodge. They just were kind of lost to kind of figure out where the story goes. I don't think it worked as well. I think there was funny moments though, so it wasn't a complete waste of time. It wasn't a complete failure of an episode. There were a few moments that I did laugh and I think were funny, especially the horse milking machine scene with Morty just kind of staring at it, and you kind of know where it's going to go from there. Very hilarious use of that, and a very good take. And it was also good to see Beth's job, and I wish we got to see a little bit more of that stuff. Because you see Beth all the time, but we really don't know a whole lot about her character other than she's a horse doctor. So it was cool to finally have an episode tying into all that and to reference that as a joke and to play that into the Rick and Morty storyline. And yeah, but this episode ends with the sperm monster going into Summer's egg and making a giant incest baby that floats around in space, which will come back in a future episode, which is very strange. It's definitely Rick and Morty jumping the shark. Final review on this one, I give it a 5 out of 10. This is my least favorite episode of the whole season so far. But yeah, 5 out of 10 for me. Not as solid writing as the other episodes so far. Wasn't as funny, and it definitely jumped the shark on a few occasions that I wasn't expecting to see for Rick and Morty. But that's just my 2 thoughts on the 2 episodes, 3 and 4 of Rick and Morty Season 5, guys. I hope you guys are enjoying this season as much as I am. But let me know down below what you guys thought of my thoughts on these 2 episodes. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And as always, keep it right here on Dorks Movie Minute. I've been your host, Ghost. Adios, guys.